Do you really make your own life decisions? Or does someone else manipulate your mind? And if you are still under the illusion that you cannot be controlled, then you can skip this video. Nothing is under your control, and you have been made to believe just that. Think about all the times someone convinced you to do something you didn't even realize you were doing. Was that really your decision? Or did someone cleverly plant a seed in your mind and you watered it until it became a flower and you easily come under their control? You think the thought is yours, but you don't even realize that you have been easily controlled. If you think you have always acted of your own free will, you are living in an illusion. The truth is bitter. The world is filled with puppets and their puppeteers. If you are not one of the puppeteers, believe me, you yourself are a puppet. But there is a big difference between those who control and those who are controlled. The controller, that is, a manipulator, never gives direct orders. They make others do their bidding willingly, without them even realizing it. A manipulator never lets their victim even realize that they are being controlled. A manipulator always keeps their orders, what they want the victim to do, hidden. They create emotions within their victim, making them feel that what they are doing is their own idea. They cleverly trap them in their words with a gentle smile. Remember that moment when your mind suddenly changed and you couldn't even understand how it happened? That idea was planted inside you by someone else. A seemingly innocent comment, a deliberate gesture. This is the real power, to make people your pawns without them ever suspecting it. But now the question is, what if you are the one who controls your victim? What if this time you are not the one being deceived, but the pawns are dancing to your tune? Then who would be the real player? You or them? Because in this game, the difference between winners and losers is very simple. A manipulator knows that power is never imposed. It is slowly planted in the victim's mind. The problem is that we have been taught incorrectly. We have been led to believe that manipulation means speaking loudly, asserting authority, and imposing your will on others. But the people who truly run the world never need to raise their voices. They quietly make their moves. True strategists compel people to adopt their thinking in such a way that they believe it is their own idea. And this is something no one ever told you. Manipulation is not a game of shouting or threatening. It's not even about trying to convince someone with logic or forcing your point of view. It is a psychological tactic where you lead people where you want them to go, and they never even know that you showed them the way. Now the question is, do you want to understand this game? Identify the right people. Don't try to manipulate everyone. Focus only on those who can truly become your victims. People who are easily influenced, who are lonely on the inside, who need someone but never want to show that they actually need someone. You can make such people your victims. People who think they are making their own decisions, but in reality need someone else to make those decisions for them. Make them believe that the idea is their own. When people feel they are in control, their will to resist disappears. If you want someone to agree with you, don't tell them directly. Gently plant the idea in their mind and explain that idea as slowly as possible so that they believe your words. That's all it takes to lead them to the conclusion you had already decided upon. This is the real game, to play and to make the opponent believe that they won the game themselves. The dark side of humans is that the human mind hates orders, but loves its own ideas. And if you play this game correctly, people will defend your plan as if it were their own. The biggest threat to maintaining control over something is not that people are protesting. The threat arises when these protesters unite and become organized. Therefore, if you want to stop a protest, break it into small pieces so that people cannot unite to form a power base. If a group unites against you, you will lose control. But if you can sow seeds of doubt, create small cracks, or incite them against each other, they will weaken themselves. This is called divide and rule. But just this is not enough. If you truly want control, you have to understand human emotions. Logic only influences thoughts, but emotions drive humans to action. No one acts because of logic. They act because they feel something. Now the real game begins. Fear, greed, insecurity, or ego. Every person has some weakness. Identify which emotion drives each person and use that emotion for your benefit. Don't tell them what to do. Make them feel that it is necessary to do it. But now comes the most dangerous part. There is a price for playing with others' minds. If your game is caught, you will become an enemy. If you misuse this power repeatedly, one day someone else will learn your own tricks and use them against you. Control is a weapon, and like any weapon, it can turn back and strike you. History is full of manipulators who had the illusion that they were invincible until someone else learned to play the game better than them. So, the real question is not whether you can manipulate others. The real question is, are you ready to accept the consequences? Because once you cross this line, there is no way back. Now you understand that power is not in imposing, but in guiding. It's not in speaking loudly, but in making others speak your words. And this is the biggest paradox. The less it seems like you have control, the more you actually have everything in your grasp. The less control you show, the more in control you actually are. The world is not run by those who shout the loudest, but by those who silently control others. For example, Ayano Koji, who presents himself as innocent and foolish. Now the question is, will you always remain a puppet, or will you learn to manipulate? But this is just the beginning. If you truly want to master the art of influence, you have to go beyond that. You have to understand what most people never understand. People don't follow ideas, they follow emotions. The greatest weakness of people is their emotions. Think of any great movement or person in history who changed the course of humanity. Now think about how they did it. Not with perfect arguments, nor with irrefutable data. They used the greatest weakness of people, which is their emotions. Because when emotion is involved, logic makes no sense. Remember how many times you've seen people fight for ideas they don't even properly understand? Ideas they fight for, but never even question. This happens because these ideas are tied to their ego and their identity. And this is the real key. If you want to control someone, make your idea a part of their identity. People can change their ideas, but changing one's identity is not easy. For example, make them feel that your ideas are connected to their very existence. And do you know what is close to a person's existence? Their religion, their caste, and their God. No one wants to believe that they have been thinking wrong their whole life. But if you influence someone to such an extent that the idea becomes their identity, they will defend it until their dying breath. Not because you told them to, but because it gives them a reason for their existence. And this is where the game becomes dangerous. This is no ordinary matter. This is programming. silently planting an idea in someone's mind without them knowing that the idea was yours. And for this, you need three things. First, exposure. You cannot change someone's thinking in one go. You have to slowly introduce your thoughts into their thinking. Second, repetition. Something that is heard repeatedly starts to seem true. The human mind is inclined to believe repetition as truth. If you constantly repeat an idea, it will become deeply embedded in their mind. Third, emotional connection. People don't adopt ideas because they are logical. They adopt them because of how they make them feel. If you can connect an idea to their fear, greed, pride, or insecurity, that idea becomes their own. Now, the question is not whether you can influence someone. Can you play this game so subtly that the other person never even realizes they are a puppet in your hands? The mind slowly begins to accept what it is repeatedly exposed to. Things people don't know create fear, but what is familiar starts to feel comfortable. Now, let's understand some deeper psychological patterns. People trust those who listen to them more than those who only speak. Why? Because the feeling of being heard creates a deep connection. If you want to influence someone, let them talk about themselves. Most people crave to be heard. If you give them this feeling, they will start to trust you. Fear is more powerful than reward. People fear loss more than they desire gain. If you want to compel someone to act, don't tell them what they can achieve. Instead, tell them what they will lose if they don't listen to you. Exclusivity. People value things that are not easily accessible to everyone. If you want to make an idea special, make it limited and exclusive. If people feel they are among the chosen few who know something that others don't, they will hold on to that idea even more tightly. You don't need to completely destroy a group. Just make them fight amongst themselves. Divide and rule is not just a strategy, it is psychology. If you can create doubt, competition, and ego within a group, they will weaken on their own. The biggest illusion of human psychology is this. Even if you master all the rules of psychology and influence, even if you can force people to do what you want, you can never control one thing: human chaos. People don't always react as you expect. Sometimes a simple emotion, a change in their life, or some internal awareness can erase all your control in an instant. And this is where the real question arises. It's not just a question of whether you can influence others, but whether you are prepared for what comes next. How far are you willing to go, or will you get caught in the same trap that destroyed all those players before you? Manipulation is easy, but controlling its effects is not. History is a witness. How many puppets eventually got entangled in the very strings with which they made others dance? When the addiction to controlling others takes hold, that addiction itself becomes the greatest weakness. Your biggest enemy becomes the very techniques you used. Now, the final question is not whether you can have an influence. The question is, do you want to learn how others are controlled, or do you want to live in the illusion that you have never been influenced by anyone to this day?